Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my AM reading for Friday, August 21st, 2020, on a Saturday, which technically means this is really an AM reading for the 22nd, and I'm just being nitpicky and wanting to say it's a Friday Reads video, but it's my channel, I can do what I want. I have a couple of reasons for being late. It is true, especially during coronavirus, that I occasionally lose track of days, although I did know throughout Friday that it was Friday. But on Thursday I woke up and I was kind of stunned that it wasn't Wednesday. And I wasn't as far in my weekly reading as I hoped, which is another reason I waited until today to make this video. I don't have a lot to talk about, so hopefully I'll keep things short and sweet. I finished one book that I can talk about anyway, and that one is A Pure Heart by Rajia Hassib. I've been wanting to read this book for several months. Hassib's debut novel made it to the top of my Goodreads TBR list at long last. It had been on for 5 years, pretty much. And I had a copy of that book from a used library sale a couple of years ago, and this year she just came out with this novel, or actually 2019. But then coronavirus happened and I couldn't find a way to get it, or really my preferred way would have been to buy it at the Gaithersburg Book Festival, which is an annual book festival that I attend and a lot of authors go to, but of course that was canceled this year. It usually takes place in May. That being said, there was a virtual festival, and Hassib was one of the authors who made a little presentation, so I'll link to that down below. Anyway, long short of it was I ultimately did buy this from an indie bookstore, but I put off reading it because I had other bookish goals that felt more important in the moment. But anyway, that's a really long preamble because now I can actually talk about it because I have read it, so much for being short. Anyway, this is a story that takes place primarily in Egypt with a little bit in America, or maybe it's a little closer to half and half, and in fact there are two storylines going on here. The present-day storyline takes place in 2016 after a suicide bombing in Egypt, and it claims the life of the protagonist's younger sister. She was there. In fact, she was very close in proximity to the bomber. And the protagonist, Rose, is uncovering some surprising or shocking secrets about her sister's secret life in the years leading up to what happened, and the second storyline is taking into account those years and what she got up to. She was on a slightly different trajectory than the rest of her family. Rose and her sister Gamila's family, or their parents, were upper middle class Egyptian secular people, very anti-Muslim brotherhood when it came to the Arab Spring, and just kind of wanted the status quo of dictatorships or what have you. That might be a little too simplistic, but they're definitely anti-Muslim brotherhood to a huge extent, to the extent that they were concerned, very concerned, when their American son-in-law, who's a journalist, actually wanted to interview people who had some sympathies with the brotherhood or similar groups. And that exchange of the son-in-law, or Gamila's brother-in-law, wanting to find Egyptians of various backgrounds to profile for the New York Times, led them into contact with Saber, a young, poor man who had been very overlooked by the establishment government sort of stuff. His father died in prison, his brother died in riots, and he's just generally feeling very overlooked by the rest of society. And at the time of the interview, he wasn't really radicalized yet, but in part because of the interview, things unfold in his life where he is radicalized and becomes the bomber in 2016. So we already know, or at least Mark knows, that she knew the bomber, like in a vague way. It's also true that Gamila is more conservative and more religious than her parents. I don't want to lean too heavily on it, although I imagine it was in Hassib's mind, because Gamila is more conservative and more religious, and, biases and stereotypes could say that, maybe she got involved in more violent activity, especially if she was keeping secrets from her family. But I would say maybe I'm being spoilery, but in a way that's a red herring, or you know, something where maybe we would want to look at our own biases if we come to the narrative with that mindset. And luckily we really get to know Gamila very well. And also Rose, who I've been saying after all is the main character. Rose is an Egyptologist who wants to go, actually wants to follow her husband to America. Like he was from America and was reporting in the Middle East, and she was the one who really wanted to go to America to take a graduate program in archaeology, and she got an Egyptology fellowship. You know, she's kind of a big deal, and for her, like the apple of her parents' eye, like what they would love in a daughter. And she's very interesting herself. I mean, there's really a lot of fascinating stuff about ancient Egyptian culture in here. The title comes from that, and how Rose is dealing with the grief of her sister's death and of their recent estrangement over, you know, cultural and religious issues. And also Rose's sense of trying to look for a place where she belongs. I think that she's a strong character. I mean, she's in a book that's kind of populated with strong characters, with Gamila, and even Mark, the American husband, had a nice amount of dimension where we got to go back into his past a little bit to see what formed him into the person that he is, which I think in a way is a step up from the debut novel. That Hassib had a lot of characters in that I didn't think were fleshed out enough, but here I think all of the main characters really got their due, and it was just a really moving story. And I'd come off of a month so far of iffy reading, so I might have judged this a little higher than I should have, or maybe not, because I was very into the story. I was talking to the characters, which is always a good sign for me, being incredibly invested. It was a really nice mix of political topics and also, you know, actual character development for, you know, fictional characters who make up the story and feel like real people. And it was just nuanced and very compelling look at a family and at the issues in Egypt. And I was very impressed. I really liked it a lot. I'll definitely be shorter with this next book because really I just started it. It's Holding My Breath by Sidura Ludwig. This was the book that won my page 112 tag, which I did earlier in the week. I'll link to the video down below. The page 112 tag is a tag I do where I pick 3 books at random that are on my to-be-read physical shelves, and I compare and contrast page 112 and the writing of them and decide which one will join my monthly TBR list. And this was the one I picked from the last tag. And this is a Jewish family story based in Manitoba, Canada, a very sort of remote part of Canada, not where most of my Jewish stories come from. So a lot of them are very stereotypically either New York or big American cities. So this is a different setting, although to be fair, I think these first few chapters of setup are kind of familiar territory to me. You know, we have the family coming from the old country in Russia, and the push and pull about staying true to traditions versus, you know, assimilating into the broader culture, and that they also still, though, live in a Jewish neighborhood, and like the types of dreams they want for upward social mobility, and in terms of economics and cultural, like inclusion in Jewish social groups that they want for their upbringing. The main character is a girl named Beth. I'm thinking she's a girl because she starts narrating at her parents' wedding in the 40s, and then she was born in 52. She is a weird sort of omniscient narrator who, you know, knows things that she really wouldn't in that much detail about her parents and their personal lives, especially from before she was born. But it's kind of the type of story this is, where we're trying to take a look at what makes a Jewish family, and that's the gimmick she's going with, and I don't mind it, at least not so far, because I'm getting a look into the types of family dynamics that always seem to draw me in. I'm very interested in Jewish families, and particularly how they live as second and third generation immigrants, well, especially I guess in North America, because I'm from the US myself. So far, so good. I will report back with what I think of the full product next week. And finally, next on my docket of reading is a book for the BookTube Prize. It's a single thread by Tracy Chevalier, which I was able to get from my library as an ebook. The BookTube Prize was started by Robert last year. You've probably heard about it a lot, either on this channel or perhaps other channels. A lot of the BookTube community is involved as judges. We've been spending the last several months whittling down 2 huge lists of literary fiction and nonfiction to the finals, which is what we are judging now. We have 6 books in fiction and 6 books in nonfiction. I am judging fiction for this round, and pitting the 6 books against each other, which I will then have to rank before Robert finally announces the official winner for fiction and nonfiction in October. So all I can say about this book is I believe it is historical fiction taking place in the UK in the interwar years. And that's all I'm really allowed to tell you, because I have to keep my thoughts about the books to myself until the official winners are announced. But in the meantime, I will link to more information about the BookTube Prize down below. So that about covers it for me now. I hope to be back later in the week to do an author's answer video. It's a monthly AuthorTube related video that I do. But I might, or even probably will be gone for 2 or so random days, I think, in the middle of the week, because my father is looking after my niece and nephew, and as far as I know, I am still furloughed. The latest I heard is that I might be going back sometime in September, which means next week is still free for me, and it might be nice to get out of the condo again. It's been a little while. It's been over a month by now. And to see just my family, the immediate members of my family. Maybe the days won't blend together so much if I see a change of locale. We'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, I hope you're all doing well. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.